So at this current moment in time, Ten Hag's job does seem to be safe. But there's no doubt he's hanging by a thread. Much was made about the Ineos meetings this week, the so-called secret ones, but I put a wager on it that they were probably talking more about the potential new stadium they can build, how much money they can make from that, rather than anything actually football related. United head into the international break though, having only scored 5 goals in 7 Premier League games this season. So I'm here today to ask the question, is this pitiful number down to the manager and his tactics, or is it down to the strikers simply not putting it in the goal hole? Make sure you drop a like if you enjoy this video, guys. Please subscribe as well. Very close to 1,000 subscribers. Be the 1,000th one. Be a good fella.
Welcome to the family!
So first off, I want to talk about United starting strikers, and that's going to be Højlund and Xerxes. Obviously, Højlund has only just come back into the mix after that injury in pre-season. He got his goal the other night, which sent some to the moon.
Rasmus! Rasmus! Rasmus!
United knew they weren't paying that £70 million fee for the finished article, but people do talk about him now like he's never scored a senior professional goal before. I must have made up the fact that he actually scored 16 goals for a team last season who finished 8th. His finishing was actually very good last year, but shock, United weren't creating many chances then either. We've asked him to play largely as a target man to Onana's vast long balls. There's no doubt that he's still very rough around the edges, but he's shown enough technical ability for me to go along with the work rate that he brings in every single game to allow me to give him a bit more time to actually embed himself into this United team. I said I don't think he did a bad job last year, and we'll have to wait and see what he does this season as well. And now with Xerxes, another striker who is far from the finished article, and ironically, it's his finishing that is probably one of his biggest flaws. He scored on debut, but he has lacked that clinical edge since. He's shown glimpses of what he can do in terms of that link-up play, even on occasion using his big frame to get United higher up the pitch. He's early on in his United career, so I will cut him some slack. That killer instinct definitely needs to be improved, but he is getting into good positions now, and I do remember talking before the season started that may be one issue, just not getting in the right places at the right time. But he is doing that so far this season, so the potential is there. Again, United are hardly creating an abundance of chances for him, so we will have to wait and see whether he's going to be a successful signing or not. Still very early on. His relaxed demeanour is going to frustrate a lot of people though. He does heavily remind me of Berbatov, I can't help it. The way he struts around the pitch sometimes, he does press, he does do that very well. But on other occasions when he's trying to battle for the ball, sometimes he seems a little bit not interested. So that obviously goes against him when you're comparing him alongside of Højlund. But he does have to bring you stuff in other areas. That killer instinct has to be improved. Because at the end of the day, if you've got a striker who can't score goals, that's worth nothing to you.
Very wise, very wise, very wise.
So there's our 2 main strikers, but the main issue for me is going to be the tactical side of things and also the individual decision making of the players actually behind the strikers. For years now, United have looked at missed chances and said, a proper striker will fix this. Rather than actually looking at the fact that we just don't create many chances in the first place. How about we fix that? At the time before we signed Højlund, we were looking at Harry Kane. But do you really think that changes an awful lot? Put Kane into the team this season, would he get a ton of goals? I'm not so sure. You see Kane with England at the Euros. Did we see him as a very, very good player then? Not really. He didn't have a good time. And that was largely down to the fact that England just wasn't a very good environment for him. And I do think the United strikers are suffering with that at the minute as well. United simply don't do enough in wide areas for me to facilitate any decent wing play and get any good cross in the box for someone like Højlund to feed off. Far too often we see in these instances where United's wingers are just simply far too isolated. The winger, this time is Rashford, picking the ball up right on the touchline, and you run it on a little bit, he's going towards his fullback, but then he ends up being double-teamed with no one overlapping him, no one really making a good run in support, so then Rashford has got to do something by himself. Yes, Rashford in this instance did get past the 2 players, get a shot off, got a bit lucky for the goal, but he got his goal. But that's not going to happen very often if you're asking your winger to constantly go up again in those 2v1 situations. Again, you can see a little bit later on in the game, Rashford again picking the ball up in these instances where there's no one really overlapping him or providing him with a lot of support going up against two players again. A little bit later on, it's not just Rashford, but Garnacho again, no fullback overlapping him, and he's left trying to cut inside, going up against 2 or 3 opposition players. It's never going to be a very good to see your wingers in these positions more often than not. This has happened far too many times now for it just to be an anomaly. We've seen it throughout the course of this season. So this is how Ten Hag wants us to play, and I can't really see a reason why. Remember when we said that Ten Hag wants to bring back that United DNA? Well, not playing like this on the wings, you won't. And then when you add in the decision-making of our so-called creative players, Fernandes has been in horrible form this season. Probably the worst I've seen him play. Rashford just sort of loses really a lot of that spark when he doesn't have that overlapping fullback there to give him some space. But I think any winger in world football would say the same. And Garnacho is the same for him, but with him now we're seeing that real rawness to his game where he just simply takes far too many shots that are really sort of low percentage ones. And Ahmad, he's shown for me that he is being one of United's best wingers this season, but Ten Hag does value that sheer pace over anything else, and he does like that pace on the counter above all, so Ahmad has suffered because of that. So all in all, tactically and personnel-wise, United are just miles off it. But as far as our strikers are concerned, what more can they really do for me? I don't know. Our XG numbers are absolutely abysmal, and no matter who's up front, once again, I'm looking at the manager and going, hey, it's your job, dummy.
We didn't stick to the plan.
What's the plan?
The plan is huge.
We're in year 3 of said process, and Ten Hag still hasn't found a balance of caution in defence and aggression in attack. So here we are stuck in the same limbo, lacking any goals because of it. Languishing down in 14th place, scoring 5 goals in 7 Premier League games is far from good enough. But I do just look at our strikers and think, what more can they really do in these systems? Yes, they can perform a little bit better. Obviously they can. But I'm not going to come on here and really dig them out because I think with a lot of our players this season, the tactics just hasn't helped. And that's what I think is the main reason for concern with United's lack of goals this season. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Do you think our strikers are good enough? Do you think United need to be looking again in the transfer windows to be bringing someone else in? Let me know. As always, guys, please drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you in the next one.